If you've been keeping an eye on the Web3 space, you'll know decentralized autonomous organizations, they've really come a long way this past decade.
Oh, absolutely. From radical experiments to essential governance backbones now. Finance, culture, social stuff.
Yeah.
They're everywhere.
But something feels different now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
2025, the landscape is shifting again. Dramatically, I'd say.
It's moving fast.
The old model, just setting up a treasury, putting proposals up for a vote, feels like it's running its course.
Right.
The big question now is, can these evolve? Can they get past the human bottlenecks, the basic voting, and become genuinely intelligent organizations?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
We've gathered the latest research. We're looking at this convergence of AI, programmable infrastructure, advanced cross-chain stuff. And our mission today is a real deep dive into what's next for governance. Specifically, we want to analyze this proposed solution called the ICSO cooperating system. We're going straight to the heart of what this could mean for organizational autonomy.
And maybe we should start with the why. What's the context? The fundamental pain point ICSO seems to be tackling is that, look, even with all the progress we've made, they still involve massive organizational overhead. Just think about the cost of context switching, all the different tools you have to juggle.
Oh, tell me about it. The fragmented tooling is a nightmare.
Exactly. And those rigid governance templates, they just can't adapt fast enough. Plus, there's this heavy reliance on, frankly, human micromanagement for things that really should be automatic by now.
Right.
So the goal here isn't just tweaking things slightly. It's about moving towards intelligent cooperation.
Intelligent cooperation.
Yeah, and that means really cutting down the friction, the stuff that stifles real decentralized action.
I think anyone who's tried contributing feels that deeply. It's palpable.
It really is.
But okay, before we jump straight into ICSO in the future, let's give credit where it's due.
There's been huge progress.
And that progress sets the stage for whatever comes next, right? So what are the big drivers? What are we seeing today that have matured beyond those initial clunky early days?
I think there are about 4 key areas that really stand out. First, and maybe the buzziest one, is the rise of AI-assisted governance.
How is that playing out?
We're seeing integrated AI agents doing more than just basic data crunching. They're summarizing those incredibly long, dense proposals into digestible bullet points.
Thank goodness for that.
And they're getting better at flagging sophisticated Sybil attacks. Some are even simulating voting outcomes before the vote closes.
Wow, okay. Giving communities a sneak peek of the consequences.
Exactly. That predictive power is huge. It shifts governance away from guesswork towards more calculated strategy.
What's number 2?
Second is the widespread adoption of robust delegate systems. Delegated voting is becoming the norm, finally.
Why is that so crucial?
It's key for tackling voter apathy. It lets the really engaged contributors, the ones with the time and expertise, act on behalf of the more casual members, the ones who just hold the token and want the project to succeed.
So it lowers the barrier for effective participation.
Third, we're seeing organizations truly achieve cross-chain reach. It used to be governance was stuck on one chain. Very limiting.
Right, siloed.
Now, organizations are building these complex, multi-layered governance structures that operate across different ecosystems, much more flexible.
Right, delegation, cross-chain. What's the 4th driver?
That maturity has led directly to the 4th one, genuine institutional interest.
The institutions are coming.
Well, they're definitely looking seriously now. As the frameworks mature and regulators slowly start figuring them out, serious institutional players are considering real capital allocation, large-scale coordination.
Okay, so that paints a picture of significant progress, a renaissance, as you said. We've got AI helping, delegation working, cross-chain functioning, institutions interested. So why the need for something fundamentally new like this ICSO cooperating system?
That's the key question.
What's the persistent flaw, the structural weakness that still remains despite all this progress?
I think the core persistent flaw is that even with all this added automation, we haven't really cracked the human coordination bottleneck. The systems are still fundamentally quite rigid.
Explain that.
An organization might have a multi-sig wallet controlling its treasury. That often still needs 3 or 5 or 7 actual humans to get together and digitally sign off on every single budget change, every investment, every deployment.
Right, the multi-sig coordination dance.
Exactly. And the interfaces are still fragmented. Their actual autonomy is often limited by the sheer overhead of coordinating all these different human actors without enough deep fundamental automation baked in.
If the organization constantly needs manual human nudges for basic operations.
It's not truly autonomous, is it? It's more like a glorified committee with a crypto wallet.
Okay, that frames the problem perfectly. in theory, but sluggish and human-dependent in practice. Which brings us neatly to the core of ICSO's proposed solution. These things called Programmable Organizational Domains, or pods.
Pods, yeah.
Tell me about these pods. They're described as a fundamental operating system for cooperation. What makes a pod different from a standard setup?
The difference really lies in the depth and the composability. A pod is designed as this dynamic, programmable domain. It encapsulates not just the rules, but the entire operational logic of the collective group. Think of it almost like a complete self-contained, self-executing cooperative unit.
Self-executing.
Yeah, and that's crucial because it enables the first really big conceptual leap, executable governance.
Executable governance. Let's unpack that term. Typical, we vote on a proposal, maybe it's a PDF, maybe it's text on a forum detailing some action. Then there's usually another step needed, right? A human, or maybe a time-delayed contract, has to actually do the thing. How does ICSO change that flow?
It fuses the decision and execution into one step. Within ICSO, each pod encodes its governance not just as rules, but as programmable flows.
Programmable flows,
Yeah.
like workflows.
But think of them as living dynamic processes. These flows combine smart contracts, verifiable claims, and AI-enabled oracles. The critical shift is this. The decision isn't just a vote about doing something. Passing the vote is the actual execution of a predefined secured action or deed.
Whoa, okay. So give me an example. If a pod votes to, say, allocate 100,000 USDC from its treasury to Project B,
Right.
the moment that vote passes whatever threshold is set, the funds just move instantly and verifiably without needing a separate sign-off or anything.
That's exactly the idea. Provided the predefined conditions within the flow are met, the act of deciding becomes the act of execution.
That would drastically speed things up.
Accelerates action and removes that human bottleneck from routine agreed-upon processes.
But hang on, if decisions are immediately executable, that sounds potentially risky too. The stakes are much higher.
That's a fair point.
What stops an executable flow from running away with the treasury if the conditions are complex, or if some data feed is wrong or gets misinterpreted? This must be where the intelligent orchestration part comes in, right?
It absolutely has to. And yes, this is where Agentic Oracles play a really transformative role.
Agentic oracles.
Oh.
Different from standard oracles.
Think about traditional Web3 oracles. They usually just feed in external data, like a price feed.
Right. Price of ETH.
In ICSO, these oracles are described as agentic. That means they're integrated directly into the pod workflows, and they have permission to do more than just report data. They can perform active evaluation, maybe even mediate disputes.
How would that work?
Imagine two parties within the pod disagree about whether a project milestone was completed correctly. Instead of immediately escalating to some slow, human-run dispute process, an agentic oracle could potentially evaluate the verifiable claims submitted by both sides, things like timestamps, external audit reports linked cryptographically, other proofs, and then autonomously trigger the next appropriate action based on that objective evidence.
That really changes the nature of evidence and trust inside the organization, doesn't it?
It means outcomes become more reliant on verifiable data streams rather than drawn-out human arguments or internal politics.
Less friction, more evidence-based decisions.
And crucially, it drastically speeds up that whole cycle of action verification and accountability.
Individual pods, powerful self-executing domains with intelligent orchestration. But the whole concept is a cooperating system. They're not meant to be isolated silos, are they?
No, definitely not.
So how does ICSO ensure this network's autonomy? How do pods work together?
This is where they introduce the concept of the Internet of Impact.
Sounds grand.
But the idea is that pods are designed from the ground up to interoperate seamlessly. Think back to that pain point we mentioned earlier.
Bridges, wrapping tokens, multiple approvals, tons of manual overhead.
The Internet of Impacts aims to create this cooperative fabric where governance signals, funding flows, verification systems, they can all communicate more natively between pods.
Pod A could send verifiable claims and conditional funding directly to Pod B.
Yes, and Pod B could then return verifiable proof that it delivered on its commitments, ideally without needing multiple layers of complex conversions or waiting for manual interventions.
Like building a collective nervous system for decentralized orgs.
Allowing resources and intent to flow much more freely across organizational boundaries.
I can see how that would be huge for managing shared resources, like public goods funding, where verifying impact across different protocols is absolutely critical and currently very hard.
Definitely. But you raised a really crucial point earlier, security and oversight.
The risk factor.
When you start talking about executable governance and these agentic oracles making decisions, you absolutely must have strong guardrails in place. That brings us to the fourth key feature, human-in-the-loop assurance.
So how do we make sure humans stay in control? How do you assure the listener that we're not just handing the keys over to some runaway AI algorithm?
That's paramount. Even with automation doing a lot of the heavy lifting, human agency is maintained through layered security mechanisms. This goes beyond just a simple multi-sig. It involves integrating things like verifiable credentials and specific authorization layers directly into the operational flows. Humans define the scope and the ultimate intent of the automation. They hold the root access credentials, metaphorically speaking. If an agentic oracle is deployed to handle, say, loan disbursements based on certain criteria, humans would be the ones who initially define the risk parameters for that oracle, the maximum thresholds it can operate within autonomously. The humans are still steering the ship, steering the collective intent.
Just at a higher, more strategic level, rather than getting bogged down in the day-to-day clicking and signing.
Exactly, making the human role strategic rather than purely tactical or administrative.
Stepping back now, it really feels like this isn't just a new tool or platform. It's a whole conceptual reframing, isn't it?
Yep.
Beyond to this idea of a cooperating system.
That's right.
The focus shifts. It moves beyond asking, okay, how should we vote on this proposal? To asking a much bigger question. How can groups, networks, entire ecosystems actually act together with shared intent, with intelligence, and with verifiable accountability at scale?
That reframing is the paradigm shift, I believe. It fundamentally redefines what we mean by organizational autonomy. It's moving from autonomy as a static concept like we are decentralized to autonomy as a dynamic, executable reality. And we can make this clearer by looking at 4 specific ways the system tries to redefine things, ways that really change how we might measure an organization's success.
Okay, let's hear them. Redefinitions.
First, the shift from just voting to verifiable intent. It's not merely about counting clicks for yes or no. It's about confirming the rights, the claims, the actions in a way that's deeply integrated, auditable, and part of the operational logic.
Got it.
Moving from fragmented proposals to programmable flows. Like we discussed, governance becomes dynamic, alive. If you need to change an interest rate parameter in a DeFi protocol run by a pod, the approved governance flow is the automatic parameter update itself.
Much more integrated.
Third, and this ties in Internet of Impacts, we transition from siloed treasuries to interoperable economic domains. This directly tackles the fragmentation problem we see everywhere. Resources, value, information, they can move across organizational or even blockchain boundaries to support shared goals much more efficiently and verifiably.
Makes sense. And the fourth redefinition.
Fourth, and maybe the most profound one, is the shift from human bottlenecks to symbiotic intelligence between people and AI. The AI isn't just a tool bolted on, it's designed as an integrated, accelerating force within the organizational structure itself. Its purpose is to eliminate that coordination drag, that friction, freeing up human capacity and maximizing the organization's ability to actually act on its intentions.
The deep implication here, especially for you listening, is that the potential for these next-gen organizations, whether we call them collectives, networks, even future institutions, their ability to deliver real-world impact, seems to depend heavily on having this kind of trustworthy, capable infrastructure underneath.
You need a system that can reliably host this collective intelligence, manage all these verifiable rights and claims, and execute cooperative actions across different ecosystems in a resilient, real-time way.
And pods are positioned as foundational infrastructure.
They're designed as the infrastructure layer to enable all sorts of groups, co-ops, collectives, maybe even traditional institutions to cooperate more intelligently. By aligning their intent, verifying the outcomes, and orchestrating the actions needed across whatever boundaries exist.
So the frontier really isn't about just tweaking governance models anymore.
It seems less about that now.
More about building these underlying operating systems. Systems that are robust, adaptive, and resilient enough to actually handle the complexity of the large-scale coordination problems we face.
By fusing this programmable governance, the verifiable data streams and the AI-enabled cooperation, the exo-cooperating system, or systems like it, are essentially trying to hardwire collective intelligence right into the foundation of the organization.
The real question now is, can we build to be intelligent enough, capable enough to actually tackle the complex, messy, important problems they were envisioned to solve in the first place.
That's a challenge.
Which leaves us with a really interesting, maybe provocative thought to mull over. If pods, or something like them, can actually turn into these truly intelligent organizations capable of seamless, executable, cross-chain action, where should we deploy this first? What's the first domain of cooperation where this kind of paradigm shift should be demonstrated to show its power most profoundly?
Good question.
Should it be in the immediate, maybe obvious efficiency gains in decentralized finance? Or the long-term, incredibly complex verification needed for something like global climate action tracking? Or tackling the messy, multi-stakeholder challenge of coordinating public goods funding more effectively? Where does this new capability make the biggest difference first? We'll leave you with that thought.